Get out. Not tomorrow. Not when you figure things out. Not when you have a plan. Now, that was the last thing my ex-husband ever said to me before he threw my life onto the sidewalk like it was trash. And if you think you already know where this story is going, stay with me, because it does not end where you expect. It gets darker, sharper, and a lot more dangerous than a breakup. It becomes a fight for survival, a chase with real consequences, and a choice that could have ended with me in handcuffs and a one-way flight out of the country. And the most terrifying part is this. The moment he kicked me out, he thought he was erasing me. But what he really did was push me straight into something he never knew existed. Something my grandmother hid for years. Something that made a bank go silent. Something that put my name on a list that no one in my family ever wanted me to touch. And something that made the wrong people start moving. If you watch until the end, you are going to understand how a single old card led to an ICE raid, a hidden file, and the night I had to disappear without saying goodbye to anyone. You will also understand why the people who smile the most can be the ones who are building a cage around you. Because if you have ever felt disposable, betrayed, or hunted by life itself, this story is for you. And I need you to listen closely, because what I am about to tell you is not just about me. It is about how ISALI someone can take your stability, your identity, and your future, and how fast you have to become someone you never planned to be just to survive. I was the kind of woman who believed loyalty could fix anything. I believed if I loved hard enough, if I stayed patient, if I kept the home warm and quiet, eventually the storms inside a man would settle. I cooked. I cleaned. I supported his dreams. I held my tongue when his mother looked through me like I was a mistake. I smiled when people asked what my husband did, like I was proud, like I belonged, and I believed him when he told me he would protect me. That word, protect. I did not realize that for someone like Mark, protection did not mean safety. It meant control. It meant isolation. It meant making sure I had nowhere to go but back to him. Mark was charming in public. Calm. Smiling. The kind of man who shakes hands, like he owns the room. He spoke about leadership and ambition. He wore that confident energy like a suit tailored for him. But inside our home, he was a different person. Not violent. Not screaming. Something colder. The kind of cold that makes you doubt your own emotions. The kind of cold that convinces you you are the problem, even when you are the one bleeding. He convinced me to quit my job because he said he wanted me to rest. To be cared for. He told me my work was stressful and unnecessary. He said we were building a real future, and my place was beside him, not working under someone else. At the time, it sounded like love. Now I see it was strategy. Little by little, I became dependent. Not just financially, emotionally, socially. My friends became distant because Mark always had a reason why they were not good for me. My family did not live close. And even if they did, my situation was complicated. I had been living under a kind of quiet fear for years. Fear I could not name out loud. Because I was undocumented. I had come to the United States when I was younger with a relative who promised to help me. I overstayed. I built a life anyway. I stayed quiet. I worked, primera, PAID, rent. I tried to be invisible in the ways you learn to be invisible when you live with a shadow behind you. Mark knew. And the day he married me, he did not marry an equal. He married leverage. When the day finally came, it did not come with a warning sign. It came like a door slamming. One morning I made breakfast like always. Eggs. Toast. Coffee. He walked past the smell like it meant nothing. He did not sit down. He did not look at me the way a husband looks at a wife. He looked at me like he was about to fire an employee. Then I heard the scrape of luggage on hardwood. My suitcase? My own suitcase? He dragged it across the floor and dropped it by the door, like it weighed nothing. I remember standing there with a spatula in my hand, frozen, trying to understand if this was a joke, if I had missed a conversation, if something terrible had happened. Mark did not yell. He did not need to get out, he said. I laughed once, a small confused sound, like my brain refused to accept reality. Mark, what is this? He cut me off. Get out. Take your useless life with you. Useless. That word had a sound to it. A finality, like he had been holding it for years and finally got permission to say it. I stepped closer. I tried to touch his arm. He pulled away as if my skin disgusted him. We can talk, I said. Just tell me what is going on. Please. He looked past me. And that is when I saw her, Vanessa, standing in the doorway to our kitchen like she belonged there, sipping coffee from a mug I bought, wearing a robe that was not mine. Smiling like she had been waiting for this moment. Should have seen this coming, Em, she said softly, like she was telling a child, the stove is hot. My throat tightened. Vanessa, please. Can you? At least she did not even let me finish. Some people just do not fit where they do not belong. Mark checked his watch. I am late for a meeting, he said. Just go. Do not make this dramatic. Dramatic. I looked at my suitcase. I looked at Vanessa. I looked at my husband. This is my home, I said. Vanessa took a step forward. Not your home, she said. Your name is not on the deed anymore. My stomach dropped. She tilted her head, enjoying the way my face changed. I handled the paperwork myself a month ago. You signed it without reading. Remembered that I did remember. A stack of papers Mark slid across the table one night. He kissed my forehead, told me it was routine refinancing, said he needed my signature to help the business. I signed because I trusted him. Because I loved him. Because I believed my husband would never set me up. Mark stared at me with that polished calm. I planned a future, he said. You are simply not part of it anymore. I grabbed my suitcase handle like it could keep me upright. Fine, I whispered. Give me access to our savings. I have nothing on me. Just let me, he gave a small shrug. What savings? My chest tightened. Everything is tied up in business expenses, he said. I told you that. You said it was temporary, I said. It was, he replied calmly. Until today. Then he closed the door. Not slowly, not with hesitation. Like he was closing a file. Like he was done with me. I stood on the porch for a long moment, staring at the door, waiting for it to open again, waiting for my husband to realize he just destroyed someone. But nothing moved. No curtain. No shadow. No regret. I dragged my suitcase down the steps and onto the sidewalk like I was walking out of my own life. People drove past, some looked. Most did not. I felt humiliated in a way that sinks into your bones. And underneath that humiliation was something worse, fear. Because when Mark threw me out, he did not just throw me out of a house. He threw me into the world, without protection, without money, without a plan, and without legal safety. I ended up in a motel that smelled like bleach and old carpet. The kind of place where the front desk clerk does not ask questions because he does not care. I sat on the bed and stared at my suitcase, like it might speak. And for the first time in years, I thought, I am truly alone. I wanted to call my grandmother, Grace. She raised me more than anyone else. She was the kind of woman who could fix a broken sink and a broken spirit with the same steady hands. But Grace was gone, and the only thing I had left of her was a bag she gave me years ago, a faded photo of us at a county fair, and an envelope I had never opened. It was in the bottom of my bag, folded like someone placed it there on purpose. My name was written on it in her strong looping handwriting, and beneath my name were words that made my throat close. For when the world forgets your value, I stared at it for a long time. Grace was not sentimental like that. Not with dramatic messages. She was direct. Practical. So when she left something like this, it meant she knew something. I tore the envelope open. Inside was a dusty old bank card. Not a debit card, not a credit card. Something older, heavier. I turned it over, and on the back, in neat blue ink, Grace had written a single line. Use only when you are ready to start again. My stomach twisted with hope and confusion. Grace never had money. She lived on a teacher pension and stubborn pride. She clipped coupons, she drove the same car, for years. She never bought expensive things. So why would she leave me a card like this still? Hunger makes you brave. Desperation makes you reckless. I had not eaten since the previous morning. I had no money. Mark cut me off from everything. So the next day, I walked to the nearest branch of Ridgeway Bank. It was larger than I remembered, renovated with glass doors and bright lights, the kind of place that smells like coffee and furniture polish and quiet power. I stepped up to a teller. He was young, neat hair, nervous hands. He smiled politely. "Good morning. How can I help you today?" My voice felt small. "I would like to check the balance on this." I placed the card on the counter. I picked it up, studied it, with mild confusion. 10 zrukche. One moment. He slid it through the machine, and the moment he did, the air changed. The lights flickered once. The screen flashed red, then black, then red again. A single sharp beep cut through the lobby, and then every monitor within sight went silent. Not frozen, silent. As if the bank itself held its breath. The teller frowned and tried again. The machine shut itself off. People looked up from desks. A woman in a suit froze mid-sentence. Security guards shifted their weight. A low hum filled the room, like electricity gathering. The teller stared at his screen, his face going pale. He looked at me like I was a fire he did not know how to put out. "Ma'am, just a moment," he whispered. Then he stood up too fast and hurried into the back room. I stood there, confused, embarrassed, suddenly anxious. I wanted to grab the card and run, but before I could move, a man in a navy suit stepped out from the hallway. His tie was crooked. His breath was uneven. He looked at me with a strange expression, like he recognized something he was not supposed to see. "Miss Hathaway," he said. My heart stuttered. "How do you know my name?" He swallowed hard. "Please wait right here." People were whispering now, louder. "That name, Grace Hathaway, is that really her?" Should we call? The man stepped closer, voice tight. "Ma'am, the CEO wants to see you immediately." The CEO? I stared at him. "Why, I just wanted to check the balance." "Please," he said softly. "Do not be afraid. But we need to go upstairs." Upstairs meant the executive floor, a place I had never seen from the inside. He guided me past rows of wide eyes. Employees paused their calls. A woman near the break room covered her mouth as I walked by. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my teeth. When we reached a private elevator, he swiped a card and held the door. The elevator smelled like new leather and cold air. I stepped inside, clutching the old card. The man pressed the top button, then leaned closer and whispered something that made my stomach drop. "We have been waiting years for the rightful heir to walk through those doors." Rightful heir? The doors slid shut. The elevator climbed slowly, each floor marked by a soft chime that sounded like a countdown to something I did not understand. Grace, my grandmother, the woman who baked pies for neighbors and stored cash in jars. What could she possibly have done to make a bank wait for an heir when the doors opened? I stepped into a hallway lined with frosted glass and expensive art. We stopped outside double doors of dark wood. A brass plate read Jonathan Pierce, Chief Executive Officer. The man knocked once. "Sir, she is here." A calm voice came from inside. "Send her in." I stepped into the office. It was huge. Tall windows showing the city. A black glass desk. Clean lines. Quiet power. Behind the desk stood a man in his 50s, with silver hair and posture sharp as a blade. He looked at me like he already knew me. "Miss Hathaway," he said. Not warm, not cold, caution mixed with respect. "Thank you for coming." Primera. Soa. Loathe. "I did not choose to come. Your staff said something happened with the card." "Yes," he said. "We are aware." He gestured for me to sit, but he did not sit. "How long have you had that card?" "I do not know," I said honestly. "My grandmother left it in an envelope. I opened it this morning." He inhaled slowly, like he was bracing himself. Miss Hathaway, your grandmother was not an ordinary customer. Primera frowned. She was a teacher. She did not have money. We struggled. His eyes flickered. I am afraid she kept many things from you. Then he walked around the desk and stood closer. Your grandmother was one of Ridgeway Bank founding investors. A silent partner. I felt a laugh rise in my throat from shock, then die. No. That cannot be right. He nodded. She owned a substantial share. How much? I whispered. Held my gase, a controlling interest, enough to decide who leads this institution. My throat went dry. Why would she never tell me? Because if she told you, he said quietly, you would have been targeted. Targeted. His mouth tightened. There are people who spent years believing the Hathaway line would never resurface. Emily, he said, using my first name like it carried weight, your inheritance is not just financial. It is political. And then he said something that made my skin go cold. Your grandmother did not just invest. She challenged this bank. She exposed unethical practices. She forced internal audits. She made enemies. I sat there trying to breathe. My life had collapsed the day before. Now, I was being told I inherited power and enemies I never knew existed. Jonathan Pierce returned the card to me. We will begin verification, he said, but until then, you need to understand something. No one in this building is neutral, not even me. That sentence should have terrified me. It did, but it also did something else. It woke something up in me, because when you are stripped of everything, you realize how many people were benefiting from you staying small. And suddenly I understood something my grandmother told me once when I was younger and crying over a teacher who treated me like I did not belong. Do not let people decide your worth, she said. People will try, but you cannot let them. I did not know she was warning me about banks and power and betrayal. I thought she meant bullies. But bullies grow up. They put on suits. They sit on boards. They hide behind paperwork. And they destroy people quietly. Jonathan called his assistant. Papers were prepared. Temporary access to a holding account was authorized. I saw the number. My stomach dropped. It was more money than I had ever seen. It was also a reason for everyone who hated Grace to wake up. Jonathan leaned forward. Do not meet anyone privately today, he said. Stay in public. Stay visible. Why? I asked. He hesitated. Because once you activate Hathaway access, some people will panic, and panic makes people do stupid things. I left the bank shaking. Not from excitement, from dread. Because I could feel it. I could feel something moving, and then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Emily, Mark said. His voice was too calm. I heard you were at Ridgeway Bank yesterday. My stomach turned. Why do you care? I asked. You are still my wife, he said. Ex-wife? I snapped. You ended that. Do not exaggerate, he replied. We can talk. Just tell me what is going on with the bank. It took everything in me not to laugh, so that was Italiano. He did not miss me. He smelled opportunity. You threw me out, I said. Now you want to talk because you think I found money. I am trying to fix this, he snapped. Fix it. You lied to me, you drained our savings, you set me up, and you have Vanessa living in my home like she owns me. Went silent. Then he whispered, Emily, you do not understand what you are involved in. I froze. That sentence was not a plea. It was a warning. Before I could respond, someone tapped my shoulder. I turned. Vanessa stood there on the sidewalk, like a ghost, smiling. Mark was still on the phone. I ended the call. Vanessa stepped closer. You keep showing up where you do not belong, she said. It is almost impressive. I felt anger rise. I belonged in my marriage. You belonged exactly where we put you, Vanessa said softly. Quiet, grateful. Out of the way. Then she leaned in so close I could smell her expensive perfume and whispered the thing that made my blood run cold. Do not rise above your station, sweetheart. You do not belong with people who matter. In that moment, something in me snapped. Not into tears. Into clarity. Because people like Vanessa do not speak like that unless they believe they have power over you. And she believed she did. Because she knew something about me. Something Mark told her. Something he had used like a leash. My status. My fear of ice. I stared at her, and for the first time, I did not shrink. You are right about one thing, I said. Her smile widened like she thought I was giving up. I do not belong in a cage. Her smile twitched. And then she walked away like she already won. I stood there, in the rain, breathing hard. And I did not realize that while Vanessa walked away, someone else was watching. Because later that day, when I tried to access the temporary funds Jonathan promised, my account still showed 0. I thought it was a delay. Then I got an email. Access frozen pending board review. Frozen. My heart dropped. I rushed back to the bank. This time, the lobby felt different. Security stood taller. Employees whispered openly. The receptionist avoided my eyes. The executive elevator was locked. When I asked for Jonathan, the receptionist lowered her voice. There is an emergency board session, she said. You cannot go upstairs. 2 security officers approached me. Miss Hathaway, we need you to step into the conference room. My stomach tightened. Why, we have orders, one said. It is about your claim. They led me into a glass room off the lobby. A screen flickered on. Jonathan appeared with a group of men and women in suits. Their expressions were hard. Jonathan did not look at me the way he did the day before. He looked like he was reading from a script. Miss Hathaway, he began. This is an emergency meeting of the Ridgeway Bank Board. We need to address concerns regarding your presence and your alleged inheritance. Alleged? The word hit like a slap. I leaned forward. Jonathan, what is happening? A board member interrupted. You appeared out of nowhere with a card that should not even be active. Another voice added, internal information was leaked, suggesting you obtained it improperly. I felt my face go hot. No. My grandmother left it for me. Can you prove that? A woman asked. Until we verify your identity, you are not recognized as a rights holder. Honaton site still not meeting my eyes. Then, another board member spoke the sentence that made everything real. We are officially challenging your claim. Until further notice, all associated accounts are frozen. I stared at the screen. Jonathan, you told me he cut in. It was never guaranteed. The call ended whoosh, like that. No explanation. No apology. The building that had whispered my name with AOD now looked at me like I was a criminal. I stepped outside and felt the rain sting my face. I sat on a bench near a bus stop holding my grandmother card like it was suddenly dangerous. That is when a man approached, middle-aged. Ridgeway? Lanyard. Rain-soaked. He kept a careful distance. Rough day, he said. I startled. Who are you, just an analyst? He said. Arthur, I saw what happened yesterday. And today, my pulse spiked. Why are you talking to me? Because you are walking into a storm you do not understand, he said, and because your grandmother did not deserve what happened to her. He opened his messenger bag and pulled out an envelope sealed with old tape. This came to my desk this morning. No sender. Just your name. He held it out. I hesitated. Why not give it to Jonathan? I asked. Arthur let out a humorless laugh. Because Jonathan is not as neutral as you think, and because, if they know I gave you this, my career is over. My hands shook as I took it. Arthur leaned in slightly, voice low. Be careful who you trust, especially the ones who seem to be on your side. Then he walked away fast, disappearing around the corner. I opened the envelope right there under the shelter. Inside was a photograph. Grace, younger, stronger, shaking hands with 3 men in suits in front of a half-finished Ridgeway sign. One of them was Jonathan Pierce. and the other one, my breath stopped. My ex-husband's father, Mark father. The man who barely spoke to me at holidays. The man who always looked at me like I was temporary. He was standing beside my grandmother like they built something together. I flipped the photo. On the back, in rushed handwriting, was a warning. They betrayed her once. Do not let them do it to you. My hands froze. My mind went blank with cold shock. Mark family was connected to Ridgeway Bank, connected to Grace, connected to this inheritance, and now Mark had thrown me out the moment he felt I was no longer useful. Then he called me the moment he heard bank rumors. It was not random. It was connected. Suddenly, the betrayal in my marriage felt smaller, like it was just the surface of something much bigger. That was when I heard footsteps behind me. Slow, heavy, like someone already knew what I found. I turned fast. A man was walking toward the shelter. Tall, hood up, hands in pockets, my chest tightened. I stood and started walking away. He kept walking, not running, not chasing, just following at a steady pace, like he did not need to rush. I ducked into a store, went out the other side, crossed the street, and kept moving. I did not stop until I was deep in a crowded area where people could see me. My phone buzzed. An email. From Mark Lawyer, notice of legal action. My stomach dropped as I read it. He claimed I stole confidential documents. He claimed I disturbed his work environment. He claimed I unlawfully possessed marital property. I whispered, no, because I understood what he was doing. He was building a case. And, more than that, he was building a reason to involve authorities. And for someone like me, authorities were not just police. Authorities could become immigration, ICE. My throat closed. Because in that moment I realized something terrifying. Mark did not just want to ruin me. He could deport me. He could erase me and Icno Italiano. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. A single message. You should have stayed quiet. My blood turned cold. I looked around, cars, people, movement, but suddenly everything felt like a threat. I had two choices. Stay frozen and wait for the next move. Or obey first. I decided to move first. I went back to the motel to grab my bag, and when I arrived, the manager stared at me like he had been waiting. You need to clear out, he said. Payment did not go through. I tried to explain. He shook his head. Rules are rules. I packed fast and left. I sat in my car. The old sedan Mark did not bother taking because he thought it was worthless. Rain hit the windshield in heavy sheets. I stared at my reflection in the rear-view mirror. Pale, tired, scared, and then my phone buzzed again. Voicemail, unknown number. I pressed play. At first I heard nothing but wind, then footsteps, then a whisper. She does not know anything, not yet. My heart stopped. A door slammed in the background. Mark's voice snapped through, tense. She must have something, that card. She did not just make that up. Another voice responded, low and calm. We will find out soon enough. Then the voice said something that made my skin crawl. The board is already turning against her. Pierce will not defend her. She is alone. Then, quieter, just like her grandmother, the voicemail cut off. I lowered the phone slowly. Whoever that voice was, they knew Grace. And they were coordinating with Mark. This was not just a divorce. This was a coordinated takedown. And then it hit me like a blade. If they were willing to threaten me through messages, freeze accounts, erase employees like Arthur, and build legal claims against me, they were capable of worse. And if Mark could not control me through marriage, he could control me through fear, through deportation, through ICE. That night, I did not sleep. I stayed in my car in a parking lot with lights. Public, visible. I watched every shadow. Around 3 a.m, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Call me. Urgent. My body went rigid. I did not want to answer, but something in me knew this was my only chance to get ahead. I answered. No greeting. just breathing, slow and rough like the person had waited for years. Then a voice spoke. "You want the truth about Grace Hathaway?" "Yes," I whispered. "Who is these?" "That does not matter," the voice said. "What matters is this. Your grandmother did not lose her shares. She hid them. The card you have is access to a shadow account, one the board never found. It holds leverage. Enough to control the bank, enough to ruin the people who destroyed her." My heart hammered. "Then why cannot I access it?" I asked. "Because they are trying to stop you before you reach it," the voice replied, "and because once you do, they will not just threaten you. They will come for you." I swallowed. How the voice paused. Then said a sentence that made my stomach drop. "They will use the system. They will use the law. They will use immigration." ICE. My hands went numb. "How do you know that?" I whispered. "Because I have seen it happen before," the voice said. "Your grandmother fought them. And they tried to erase her. You are her heir. So they will try to erase you too." Then the call ended. I sat there staring at my phone like it was a bomb. Rain streaked the windows. The parking lot lights hummed, and I realized something. I was running out of time. The next morning, I went to the address. Arthur envelope hinted at a storage unit on the edge of town. My name was not on it. Gray's name was not on it. But the key was taped inside the envelope behind the photo. A tiny key. Olds I drove there with my heart pounding. The storage facility was quiet, rows of metal doors like sealed secrets. I found the unit number. I slid the key in. The lock clicked. I lifted the door. Inside was a single metal box, and on top of the box was another envelope. My name. Again, Grace handwriting. My throat tightened. I opened it. Inside was a letter. No dramatic greetings. Just Grace's voice on paper. "Emily, if you are reading this, it means someone tried to break you. Good. Let them. Because they will learn what I always knew. A woman is most dangerous when she stops begging. Inside this box are documents that prove what they did, what they stole, and how they used fear to silence the people who challenged them. You must understand something. They do not fear your poverty. They fear your proof. Do not take these to the bank first. Take them somewhere public. Take them to someone who cannot be bought. And if they try to scare you with immigration, remember their power depends on your silence." I pressed the letter to my chest. Tears came fast and hot, not weakness, fuel. I opened the metal box. Inside were folders. Shareholder agreements, old board minutes, audit reports, and something that made my blood turn cold. A sealed file labeled with a code I did not recognize, but the stamp across the top was clear. Federal. Inside were printed emails and documents, and one phrase repeated again and again. ICE Cooperation Agreement. My hands shook. I read through it. Ridgeway Bank had a private partnership with federal agencies. Not official. Not public. Back-channel cooperation. They shared information in exchange for protection. They had used immigration status as leverage against employees, clients, whistleblowers. They had used it to silence people. And suddenly Grace's warning made sense. Grace fought them. They tried to erase her. Now they would use the same weapon on me. I heard gravel crunch outside. I froze. Footsteps. Slow and heavy. A flashlight beam cut across the thin crack under the storage door. My heart stopped. Then, a voice. "I know you are in there." Emily Markay covered my mouth to keep from making a sound. He walked closer. "You can make this easy," he said, voice dripping with false patience. "Hand over the documents. You do not even know what you are holding." I clutched Gray's letter and the folders. My mind receded. There was a back exit through the fence. I moved slowly, quietly, and slipped out through a gap behind the unit row. Cold air hit my face. I ran. Not graceful. Not cinematic. Desperate. I reached my car and threw everything into the back seat. I turned the key. The engine sputtered. For a terrifying second, it felt like it would fail 10-8 road. I pulled out as Mark appeared around the corner, shouting my name like he owned it. I did not look back. I drove to the one place, Grace Letter said, somewhere public, somewhere visible, somewhere the wrong people could not make me disappear quietly. I drove straight to the courthouse, not because I trusted the system, but because I needed a record. I needed paper trails. I needed witnesses. And because if ICE was coming, I needed to move first. I walked into the courthouse with my bag of documents like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I found the clerk office and asked to file an emergency protective order. The clerk looked at me with tired eyes. Against who? My mouth went dry. My husband, I said, and anyone acting on his behalf. I did not mention ICE. Not yet. Then I asked for a referral to a legal aid office. I sat in the waiting area for hours. My phone buzzed non-stop. Unknown calls, messages, emails. I ignored them. Finally, a legal aid attorney agreed to see me. Her name was Ms. Patel. She was calm, sharp, focused. I placed Gray's letter and the documents on her desk. She flipped through them slowly. Her eyes narrowed. Where did you get this, my grandmother? I whispered. She died years ago. She left it hidden. Ms. Patel exhaled slowly. This is serious. Then she looked up and said the sentence that made my chest tighten. And you need to understand something. If what you are saying is true, you are in danger, not just financially, physically. And yes, immigration can be used as a weapon. I swallowed hard. What do I do? Ms. Patel leaned forward. First, we make copies of everything. Second, we create a timeline. Third, we document every threat. And fourth, we assume they already started moving. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was an alert. A new report had been filed in my name. My stomach dropped. Miss Patel read it over my shoulder. She went still. Emily, this says there is an active request for immigration enforcement assistance connected to a suspected financial crime investigation. My blood turned to ice. They did it, I whispered. They activated ICE. Ms. Patel stood quickly. We need to move now. She grabbed her phone and called someone. Within minutes, 2 staff members started printing copies, scanning files. Ms. Patel handed me a folder. Take this, she said. These are certified copies. Keep the originals hidden, somewhere no one knows. My hands trembled. Where do I go? Ms. Patel looked at me with a hard kind of compassion. Somewhere they will not expect you. Somewhere with cameras. Somewhere with people. And do not go back to the motel. Do not go anywhere Mark can predict. Then, she added quietly, and if an ICE officer approaches you, do not run. I stared at her. Do not run, she repeated. Running becomes their justification. Stay calm. Ask for identification. Ask for a warrant. Say you want legal counsel. Say nothing else. My throat tightened. Primera. No de. I walked out of the courthouse feeling like the air itself had changed. Like every street corner could hold danger. I got into my car and drove to a large grocery store parking lot. Cameras. People. Noise. I sat in my car for a moment, breathing hard. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. You should have stayed in your lane. Then another. They are coming. I looked up, and that is when I saw it. 2 vehicles rolling into the lot slowly. Not police cars, unmarked SUVs. They moved with purpose. They parked at different angles, like they were positioning. My skin went cold. A man stepped out. Then another. Both wearing jackets. The letters on the back were clear, even from a distance. ICE. My heart slammed against my ribs. This was real. This was now. My mind screamed at me to start the car and drive. But Ms. Patel's voice echoed. Do not run. I gripped the steering wheel until my fingers hurt. The ICE agents walked toward the store entrance. Not toward me? Not yet. They moved like hunters who know their prey is nearby but want the right moment. People walked around them unaware. One agent spoke into a radio. I could not hear the words. My mouth went dry. I forced myself to breathe slowly. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number? I did not answer. It went to voicemail. The transcript popped up. She is in the lot. My stomach dropped. They knew. Someone was guiding them. Someone was watching me. My eyes scanned the parking lot, and then I saw him. Mark, sitting in his car, 2 rows away. Watching. His face was calm. Smiling. Like he was enjoying this. My vision blurred with rage. But rage would not save me. Strategy would. I grabbed my bag, got out of the car slowly, and walked toward the store entrance like a normal shopper. I did not look at Mark. I did not look at ICE. I became invisible. Inside the store, fluorescent lights and the smell of bread hit me. People pushing carts. Kids crying. Normal life. My heart hammered. I walked to the back of the store where the bathrooms were. I stepped into a stall and locked it. I pulled out my phone and called Ms. Patel. She answered immediately. They are here, I whispered. ICE. In the parking lot, her voice went sharp. Listen to me. Stay inside the store. Do not leave. Do not go to your car. I am calling someone now. I swallowed. What if they come inside, then you do exactly what I said. Come. Ask for a warrant. Ask for counsel. Do not answer questions. My hands shook. Ms. Patel paused. Emily, if you can, go toward the front near customer service. Cameras, witnesses. Do not isolate yourself. I nodded, even though she could not see me. I left the bathroom and walked toward the front. My legs felt like glass. At customer service, I stood near a display of gift cards, pretending to read. Then I saw them. 2 ICE agents entered the store. Slow, scanning. Their eyes moved across faces, searching. My breath caught. One agent spoke to a store employee. The employee pointed in a direction. Toward me. My body went cold. The agent walked closer. I could see his face now. Professional. Emotionless. The kind of face that does not care about your story. Only your status. He stopped a few feet away. Ma'am, can I speak with you for a moment? My heart pounded so hard I thought I might collapse. I forced my voice steady. Who are you? He showed a badge. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Do you have identification? I swallowed. Before I answer anything, I said, I would like to see a warrant. His eyes narrowed slightly. Ma'am, we just need to ask you some questions. I repeated, louder. For the people around, I would like to see a warrant. Some shoppers slowed. A woman glanced over. A cashier looked up. The agent shifted his weight. We have reason to believe you are involved in a financial crime investigation, he said. I took a slow breath. I want legal counsel, I said. The agent looked annoyed. Ma'am, if you cooperate, this can be simple. I held my ground. I want legal counsel. The second agent stepped closer. Do you understand you could be detained? I nodded once. I want legal counsel. Then something happened that saved me. A man behind the customer service counter spoke up. Sir, do you have a warrant? He asked. The ICE agent looked at him sharply. This does not involve you. The man did not back down. If you are going to detain someone in my store, he said, I need to see paperwork. We have a policy. The agent hesitated. For the first time, I saw uncertainty, because they expected me to run. They expected me to panic. They did not expect witnesses and policy. The agent pulled out a folder. He opened it. My heart hammered as he scanned pages. Then his face changed. A flicker. Like something did not match. He looked up at me again. What is your name? I swallowed. I am not answering questions without counsel. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he stepped back slightly and spoke into his radio. I could not hear, but I saw it, his certainty fading. Because the request was not clean, it was not a standard warrant. It was a referral, a manipulation, a weaponized tip, and tips do not hold up under scrutiny when you have eyes on you. The agent closed the folder. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "we will be in touch." Then he turned and walked out. I stood there shaking, trying not to collapse. People stared. The customer service man looked at me with concern. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. I nodded, but my eyes burned, because even though I was not detained, I knew something. They would not stop. Mark would not stop. Vanessa would not stop. And Ridgeway Bank Board would not stop, because I was holding proof. And proof makes desperate people dangerous. That was the moment I realized I could not just survive. I had to strike back. And this is where the story reaches the point that changed everything, because a few hours later, I got a message from Miss Patel. She found something in the documents. A hidden clause. A succession clause. A control trigger tied to Gray's shares. And the card was not just access to money. It was a key to voting power. A way to legally take control away from the people who betrayed her. Ms. Patel set up an emergency meeting with the state banking regulator and a federal oversight, contact, public, documented, witnessed, no quiet boardroom tricks. We walked into that meeting with copies, timelines, threats, proof of coordinated manipulation, proof of fraudulent referrals to immigration enforcement, and evidence of back-channel cooperation. And once those agencies saw the ICE cooperation file, everything shifted, because now it was not me versus Mark. It was not me versus a bank. It was a scandal. It was exposure. It was risk. Fordi. And risk makes powerful people turn on each other. Within 24 hours, Ridgeway Bank Board called an emergency session. They invited me. Not because they suddenly respected me, because they were panicking. Because they realized if I went public, if regulators moved, if press got involved, the bank reputation would collapse. I walked into that boardroom not as a desperate woman begging for help, but as an heir holding the match near their gasoline. Every head turned when I entered. Jonathan Pierce stood at the head of the table. He looked tired, older, like the weight of years finally pressed on him. "Emily," he said quietly. I did not sit. I placed Gray's letter on the table. I placed the shareholder documents on the table. I placed the ICE cooperation file on the table. "You tried to freeze me out," I said. "You tried to erase me. You tried to weaponize immigration against me. You think I do not understand what you are. But I do now." A board member snapped. "Those are accusations." I shook my head. "No. These are receipts." Silence filled the room. Jonathan swallowed. "Where did you get that file?" he asked, voice tight. "From the woman you've betrayed," I said. "From Grace? From my grandmother, from the truth you buried." A woman on the board looked furious. "You do not belong here," she hissed. I looked at her steadily. That is what people say when they are afraid they are about to lose power. Then the doors opened. Mark walked in. Not invited, but confident, like he still believed he owned me. He smiled at the board. He smiled at Jonathan. Then he looked at me. "Emily," he said softly, like he was trying to sound reasonable. "This is not you. You are being manipulated." I felt anger rise, but I kept my voice calm. "No, Mark. For the first time in my life, this is me." Mark stepped closer. "Give the documents back," he whispered. "You do not understand what you are doing. There are deals bigger than you." I stared at him. "You threw me out," I said. "You drained my life. You tried to deport me. And you thought I would crawl back." He scoffed. "You were nothing before me." That sentence, that old leash, I felt something shift inside me. Something sharp and clear. If this message is hitting you right now, if you have ever been made to feel small by someone who benefits from your silence, subscribe. Not for me. For you. Because if this resonates, it means you are ready to stop begging for crumbs and start demanding your worth. I turned back to the board. Here is what is going to happen, I said. You will recognize Grace's succession clause. You will restore my voting rights. You will suspend any cooperation agreements that violate ethical standards. And you will launch an independent audit. Or I will take these files to the press and to regulators. A board member leaned forward, eyes narrow. Do you have legal standing to make demands? I slid the clause across the table. Ms. Patel helped me prepare it. Read it, I said. They did. Faces changed. Highlighted sentences, names, signatures, dates. The clause was real. Grace built it like a trap for the day she was betrayed. A man on the board whispered, "Oh my God." Jonathan stared at the paper like it was a ghost. Mark's face tightened. No, he snapped. This is not happening. A woman on the board looked at Jonathan. If this clause holds, she has controlling interest. Jonathan exhaled, like he was swallowing years of consequences. Then, the board chair spoke. We need to both. Hands rose. One by one. Recognition of the Hathaway controlling interest. Suspension of internal leadership pending investigation. Understanding with regulators. It happened faster than I expected, because panic makes people choose survival over loyalty. Jonathan swallowed hard. Miss Hathaway, he said, voice strained. The board recognizes you as holder of controlling interest. You have authority. Mark lunged forward. This is insane. Security stepped in and grabbed him. He shouted. He fought. He looked at me like I was betraying him. But he betrayed me first. Escort him out, I said, and notify legal. I am pressing charges for fraud, harassment, and attempted coercion through false immigration referrals. Mark screamed my name as they dragged him away. Vanessa was emphasized in the investigation. Her involvement in forged paperwork, her connection to the back-channel communications. And then, with the board still silent, I turned to Jonathan. Why did you flip on me? I asked quietly. Why did you pretend to help and then cut me off? Jonathan looked down. Because I thought the board would handle you quietly, he admitted. I thought I could protect the bank. Protect it from what? From the truth, he whispered. I stared at him. Then, I understood. Jonathan was not my ally. He was a survivor. And survivors only help you when your survival aligns with theirs. That is the world my grandmother fought. A world where ethics are negotiable until evidence appears. A world where people call you dangerous, not because you are violent, but because you are awake. After the vote, the bank lobby filled with whispers. Employees looked at me differently. Some with fear, some with respect, some with hope. And I understood something in that moment. Power is not money. Power is not status. Power is not who controls the narrative when you are silent. Power is who controls the narrative when you speak. But my story was not finished. Because even with the board vote, even with documents, even with regulators watching, I was still in danger. Because I had already been targeted by ICE once, and once your name lands on a list, it does not vanish overnight. Ms. Patel warned me. You need a safety plan, she said. You need to assume there will be retaliation. Retaliation from who? I asked. She did not hesitate. Mark? Vanessa. And anyone who loses money because you exposed what Grace hid? That night, I did not go back to the motel. I did not go back to my car. I went to a friend's house I had not spoken to in years. A woman named Lena who used to work with me before Mark convinced me to quit. When I called her, she paused. Tensei sai. Come. No questions. Just come. I arrived at her house near midnight. She let me in and hugged me without words. I cried for the first time not out of fear, but relief. I slept for 3 hours. Then I woke up to Lena, shaking my shoulder. Emily, she whispered. Someone is outside. My blood turned cold. I peeked through the blinds. A car idled down the street. Headlights off. I could see a silhouette. Someone sitting, waiting. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Message. You cannot hide forever. My throat tightened. Tay phoned me. Lena saw my face. We are leaving, she said. Where? I whispered. Somewhere they do not expect. Somewhere loud. Somewhere with cameras. We went to a 24-hour diner off the highway. We sat in a booth under bright lights while truckers drank coffee. I watched the door every time it opened, and then, as the sun rose, Ms. Patel called. Emily, she said. We need to talk. What now? She paused. The ICE referral was not just a tip. It came from a specific contact. Understanding who filed it will expose a chain of cooperation, and the name at the top is not Mark. My chest tightened. Thing. Who? Ms. Patel exhaled. Ridgeway Legal Counsel. The bank. They tried to use immigration as pressure to make you disappear before the vote. I stared at the diner table. So it was all connected. Yes, she said. And regulators are moving fast. But there is something else. What? Miss Patel's voice softened. Emily, your grandmother filed a petition years ago. A petition that could have protected you. She never told you because she did not want you to live with hope that could be taken. But it exists. A pathway, a chance to legalize your status. My eyes burned. How it is complicated. Senora Patel sighed, but Grace set it up. And now, with the bank scandal and your controlling interest, there is political pressure. It is possible. That word hit me like sunlight after years in a basement. Primera sua lo. What do I do? Ms. Patel's voice turned firm. You keep showing up publicly. You keep everything documented. You do not disappear alone. And you do not let fear push you into a mistake. Because the moment you run, you give them the story they want. I nodded. And in that moment, in Tad booth, with Lena beside me, I realized something. I had been living like prey for years. But prey does not win by outrunning predators forever. Prey wins by becoming something else. Something unpredictable, something unwilling to stay quiet. Weeks later, Mark's lawsuit collapsed. Vanessa tried to settle quietly. The court filings proved her fraud. The bank board replaced leadership. An independent audit exposed the unethical practices Grace warned about. The ICE cooperation agreement became public. And the most satisfying thing was not revenge. It was watching the people who called me nothing suddenly realize they were understanding the wrong woman. Because they thought my fear would make me obedient. They thought my silence meant weakness. They thought my undocumented status meant I had no power. But they forgot something. Fear can be a cage. Or it can be a signal. A signal that you are standing near something that matters. And the moment you decide you would rather risk everything than stay small, the whole world shifts. I wish I could tell you everything became easy after that. It did not. There were still nights I woke up sweating, hearing footsteps that were not there. There were still moments I saw an unmarked SUV and my stomach tightened. There were still calls I did not answer. But I was not alone anymore, because I stopped living like someone who should apologize for existing, and I began living like someone my grandmother raised. Grace? The woman who clipped coupons but built traps for powerful men? The woman who lived quietly but refused to bend? The woman who left me a card, not to give me money, but to give me a start. A start that began with betrayal, and ended with me standing in my own worth. So, if you are listening to this, and you are in a place where life has kicked you out, where someone has tried to convince you you are worthless, where you feel hunted by fear, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not behind. You are being redirected. You are not broken. You are being stripped of what was never meant to keep you. And sometimes the door that slams is the same door that forces you into your real story. The kind of story that turns pain into power. The kind of story that makes people who underestimated you regret it. If you made it to this moment, comment the word ready. Because I need to know you are still here. And because if you stayed, it means something in you recognizes this truth. There is a version of you on the other side of betrayal that is stronger than the version that begged to be loved. And, if you want to continue this journey with me, if you want more stories that expose the hidden patterns, the betrayals, and the comebacks, subscribe. Not because I need it, Because you do. Because stories like this do not just entertain, they wake you up. And before you go, watch the next video on this channel, the one about the hidden room that revealed the truth before anyone could stop it. Because if you think my ex-husband was the worst part of my story, you have not seen what happens when the people behind him start losing control.